Now I want to show you something you've probably either read about or you've heard about or maybe even you've seen before, but I want to refresh into your cerebral gray matter so that when you start picking your vital priorities, that you have this mental anchor in your head, okay? It's called the big rocks. So here's the demonstration. If I were to take this mason jar and we were to determine what are your most 3 vital priorities, and we say, okay, this is vital priority number 1, and we stick this in the jar. Okay, now we've got it in. It's on the calendar, it's scheduled, it's chunked off, it's blocked. Then we decide this is vital priority number 2, and we stick that appropriately on your calendar or in the jar. And then we say, okay, this is vital priority number 3. Now, we put that in the jar. We make sure that there's still enough room to put the lid on. We have your 3 vital priorities, your 3 big rocks in the jar. Now, is that all that you can get in here? Can you put another big rock in the jar and be able to get the lid on? It doesn't look like it. Can you get anything more in the jar? Well, you can if you find some smaller rocks, right? So you can go in here and easily fit in more rocks in the jar. Look at all this stuff that you can add to your calendar if you so choose. Now, we can still get the lid on. Great. Is this all that you can get in here? Well, we can put more rocks in, certainly. We can fill this all the way to the very, very top so that we can just barely get the lid on. Is that all that we can get in the jar? The answer is no, not if you go and get some sand and you put a little sand on top of your schedule, make sure that it filters in appropriately. Look at all this that you can still get inside this jar. All this other activity, all these other things that you can still accomplish, tasks that you can achieve, still fit inside here, and you can get the lid on. Is that all that you can get into the jar? No! Because you could still take water and pour it in. And look at all this that you could still fit inside the jar and still get the lid on. See, that's the key point. What is the key point? It's not, no matter how full your schedule is, if you try really hard, you can always fit some more things into it. That is not the lesson, okay? Here's what the lesson is. If you had started with a schedule that was already littered up with small rocks and sand, you'll note that you cannot get the big rocks in at all and get the lid on. You see? It doesn't fit at all if your calendar and your schedule gets littered with the small activities, the reactions, the responses to emails and texts and knocks at the door. Do you have a minute? And we want you to come to this meeting and be on this conference call. Then all of a sudden, you don't even get any of your 3 big rocks, your 3 vital priorities onto your schedule at all. The big lesson is here, you've got to get your 3 big rocks, your 3 vital priorities on your schedule and accomplished before any small priorities or any little task nuances or anybody else asking for your reaction at any point throughout the day. So hopefully you'll remember that. The 3 big rocks go on the calendar and they get done before the small rocks, the sand, or the water dilute you from being able to be productive. Okay? So, what are the big rocks in your life? A project that you want to accomplish, time with your loved ones, your faith, your education, your finances, some cause, teaching or mentoring others. Remember to put these big rocks on first or you'll never get to them at all. The key to all this is 3 words. You ready to write these down? Okay, here's number 1. Preparation. That's number 1. You ready for number 2? Preparation. And here's number 3, okay? Make sure you get this one down. You guessed it, preparation. Your life will be as you plan it and prepare it to be. There are several ways to look at your big rocks, okay? At this point, I've already taken you through your success vitals, which includes your vital 3 functions and your vital 3 priorities. These are the things you have to get into your jar before you try to put anything else inside, or they won't get in at all. Okay, that's the first key. I want to address another big three, okay, or big rocks in your week. Okay, in my Living Your Best Year Ever program, the Weekly Achievement Management System asks for you to decide what are the 3 most important meetings or appointments or engagements of that week. This is super important. Here's what happens to most people. They wake up Monday morning and they immediately get sucked into the vortex of responding to emails, phone calls, office drop-ins, daily firestorms, and then they rush off to an important presentation or a client meeting or prospecting appointments or even key phone calls that they need to make. Because they never stopped to identify the 3, not 10, not 20, but the 3 engagements that are the most important all week, to then isolate them and properly prepare for those, they end up at all those engagements unprepared, harried, and deliver less than world-class performance, thus end up with mediocre results at the end of the week. And what's worse, they miss the big opportunities to really advance on their goals by being excellent in the few moments that really mattered. It's like this. You're like a kicker for a championship team. You're in the Super Bowl, and it's this week. You have 3 kicks that are going to determine the success or failure, victory or defeat for the entire game. Heck, the entire season. No, your entire career as everybody watches. Everything else that you do in life that week will be insignificant, non-memorable, and maybe mostly a distraction. But those 3 kicks will make or break your career. How important would it be for you to properly be prepared? Prepared physically, prepared mentally, and prepared psychologically. That's how you need to view your week.